the Wednesday, May 29, 2019, LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. So if everybody at this time would please stand for the pledge. Mike, lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mary Jane.
Randy Novak.
Here.
Joe Core.
Here.
Dr. Cora. Terry Larson. Scott Cooley. Michael Mollenauer.
Present.
Michael Rosenbaum.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like, before we ask for approval of the agenda, under other business, I need you to add news dispatch. It'll be PO number 51957 in the amount of $33.36. We're going to pay that.
Got it.
So with that, do we have a motion for the agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment. Public comment is now open. Anybody from the public would like to speak? Anybody from the public would like to speak? Hearing none, public comment is now closed. Communications, Mary Jane?
You had two. One was from the Commissioner's office about our meeting room tonight, which we resolved. And the other was from one of the persons who responded to the switching agreement, switching RFP. Matt can probably address that one, but. And that was it.
Mr. Chairman, they just asked what the status was, and my response was that until there's a additional connection that will be made into the park, we're going to maintain the access as it is today, and that once that occurs, there's something else might happen, and that's where I left it with them.
Thank you, man. Minutes? Everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next item, Treasurer's Report. Mary Jane?
The Treasurer's Report is for the Kingsbury Industrial Park. The balance is $114,121.04. The 421 I-94 balance is $143,387.29, and the balance in the 39 North TIF is $53,338.94. And then attached to your Treasurer's Report from the auditor is your financial snapshot that shows all the status of your contracts.
What's your preference, gentlemen?
Motion to accept the report is read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you. Next item is claims and docket. I'm going to actually read from the docket that is attached. I think I went over it with everybody that was up here. So, on the KIDC TIF, the following claims. Thomas & Associates for April in the amount of $552.50. Sender and Company in the amount of $671.56. MCR Partners May Services in the amount of $3,000. Harold Argus Legal Notices in the amount of $21.83. Freeman and Associates March Legal Services in the amount of $1,500 for a total of $5,745.89. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Next one is the 421 number 1 TIF. This one we have Thomas & Associates for April in the amount of $552.50. Carl Sender and Company Financial Advisors in the amount of $671.57. We have MCR Partners May Services in the amount of $2,000. Harold Argus Legal Notices in the amount of $21.83. Drayton, Brady, Sergio, and Elliott Legal Services in the amount of $192.50. Weaver Consultants, $11,256. Weaver Consultants Land Acquisition in the amount of $2,975.35. Weaver Consultants Land Acquisition Sewer Easements in the amount of $3,511.50 for a total of $21,181.25.
Motion to accept is read.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a
I do have a
second.
comment.
Yes, on the question.
It's irrelevant for the amount of money for a penny difference, but we're showing the Sender and Company bills on the first page is $671.56, not 57, and on the other claim docket where we have it's grouped together, and I believe the 57 cent might be correct when you add those three numbers together. So we're going to stay with the 57 cent and amend that first page, if we could.
Great.
I have a question.
Yes.
At the last meeting, Thomas and Associates fees were $812.50, and in this meeting they're $552.50. What's the difference between last month and this one?
We had additional work to do that month that we did not this month.
All right, very good. So $552 is a normal rate, right?
It's
correct?
around that,
Okay, all right, very good.
correct?
So you still need a second?
No, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next item is the 39 North TIF for Sender and Company Financial Advisors, $671.57. And MCR Partners May Professional Services in the amount of $1,000 for a total of $1,671.57.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Old business, Construction Rail Planning Committee update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did receive a communication from Genesee Rail, which was one of the other companies that expressed an interest along with South Shore Freight about what the status was, and I informed them that until we do get a connection or a change in how that connection looks, we're not really equipped to and or should do anything at this time. Regarding the rail issues, we will be having a meeting this coming month. There's been bids that have been put together and submitted by one of the property owners relative to making this connection to the CSX spur area, and they went through the time and got the appropriate legal or underlying documentation put together in the bids and the bid specs, and they're all the same. And I want the rail committee to review those documents thoroughly and so we can have an idea what that cost. And relative to the rail planning committee and at the kind of the where we've been heading with the IDC, that this is moving along a little bit slower than I'd like, but there's a process that they're going through, and again, we've been doing everything we need to do to make that occur, and having that documentation and the numbers so we know what we're asking for is very helpful. With that being said, on the other end of the trackage, I've asked the property owner to provide that very same information. I need right-of-way, I need legal descriptions, I need cost estimates, and I need assurances that when installed and used, it's done appropriately for that particular Class 1 rail carrier. And Until I have that information, that won't be provided. I'm just the speculation of what to do and how to do it needs to end on that front, quite frankly. And we need to get documentation in front of this body and the other authorizing agencies in the county before we can keep talking about it, I guess.
Is it appropriate to put this in a letter or have someone else make contact with the other party on the other side?
I could do that if you like. Or we can have you as chairman do that, request that information specifically. I mean, that's been outlined, and it's been a friendly, gentlemanly discussion at this point.
I think Mr. Rosenbaum's suggestion is a good one. I mean, we have been prompting them verbally. You've done everything you could, but having a request in writing might help prompt it further. So I think perhaps some direction.
Also indicate their sincere interest at this point and enable us to make that decision to go forward or not.
Right. Well, and this is really on two parts. As Mr. Reardon indicates, he's been working with IEDC on their part of it. We've done everything we had to do to get them the documentation they need to follow through with the grant, which will help with the additional rail and switch. But the user needs to commit in writing, and so I think it's a good suggestion. Maybe the board wants to go on record in support of that.
Need that in a motion?
I would.
I'll make that motion.
Take my idea, okay. I'll second. No, I'm fine.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to draft a letter.
Yeah.
All right. And get that sent off. Is there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So again, like I said, we'll be going over those documents that were provided by the Mr. Carroll and his group, and present the information to the rail carrier, and then prepare that letter between myself and Mr. Friedman on the other end of that, and the CN connection, and get it in front of them and see what kind of response we have. While I'm talking about the rail committee, we did participate in the rail summit, and it's an excellent event, and it just showed me just how much I don't know about international trade and commerce that goes on in the United States, and the impacts that tariffs and price of oil and labor challenges all go into that marketplace. And we heard both sides of the political arguments about what's going on with trade and how that should work. But at the end of the day, there was a firm belief that creating certainty in a marketplace helps the marketplace, and that's really what I gleaned mostly from that event was, if we can create certainty about what we provide here in the county, we have a better opportunity to land people. Did have an opportunity to talk to CN for a little bit, and I know that the Limborgs, Ed was there, and his assistant was with him, and they enjoyed the heck out of it, and Tony was there, and it was a decent event. Like I said, lots of information. Once it's all up on the website, I'll shoot you guys a link. We'll also put that up on our website so people can view that, but you'll be, the hundreds of billions of dollars that hinge on decisions being made on a daily basis is unbelievable. The one story in particular had to do with the Kansas City Railroad that lost 60% of their market share in one day. One afternoon, having to do with the change with NAFTA. One day. And anyway, the guy was still there and talking at the conference, so he didn't get run off into the poorhouse by any means. But he talked about the fluctuations in the market and what uncertainty can create. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you. Next item is the 421 I-94 TIF update.
We are essentially through with all design elements of the project. We still have to do the property acquisition, which we put on hold. Design elements are done. The QA/QC is done. I know that the county engineer looked at it and worked through all those documents, so we are ready to move forward. I don't think we need to allocate any money to buy any right-of-way yet until we are going to get the go-ahead. With that being said, my conversations with the developer and the underlying pipeline company have been very positive. And they're in the stage where they need to work out from an engineering solution what's going to be required to cross their pipeline. And I guess it's something that one of those hindsight things, gee whiz, if I would have thought about it, we could have solved this earlier, but it wasn't, they didn't, and now they're doing it, which is fine. What does that do to us and our construction schedule? Pushes it back quite a bit. I would hope that after in June we have affirmation that they worked it out. They're able to move forward and close on the real estate transaction, and a couple things from our perspective will be good. One, the tax draw-off will be in, so we'll have a pretty good idea where we're going to end up for the year in that TIF. We'll also know what we have in the other TIF, what we could maybe be able to use, and we can have an extended discussion with not only the real estate developer but the end user about who's going to buy these bonds. I just believe that if we can solve that before we head off into trying to do this in the marketplace, it's just going to be quicker, a quicker pathway to success. So we're going to keep doing that, working with Carl and of course Shaw and Ice Miller to get that done. It needs to be done.
You have they given any kind of projected date they think they might have this pipeline issue resolved?
Gans told me the lawyers were working it out, so I can't even know what that means. So hopefully there's enough money and opportunity on the table where they're working through this expeditiously. I know from the property owner standpoint, when you buy that, you had an expectation of being able to develop it, and I know that Love's had an expectation of being able to try and spend their $15 or $18 million. So there's a lot of expectations in front of this, and I would surmise that if it was not feasible from an engineering standpoint, this all would have stopped.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Should we go out for bids?
I would
got the drawings and everything.
I wouldn't recommend that until I get an affirmative from Ascend Real Estate in writing. Now, if they can get that to me sooner than later, then I would recommend that we have a special meeting and move it forward, move it down the field.
But they're not doing any work on the site, so they've got a lot of work to do there before they're going to be ready for us to have our sewer. So they've kind of...
Oh, yeah.
They're not doing anything there.
That's right. And you've done a hard stop, and for good reason. Until you get concrete assurances that this thing can move forward, then you're not going to want any vendor, supplier, contractor doing anything.
But it's not like Loves or Ganses are out there clearing trees and doing
nobody's
stuff.
pulled any permits.
Nobody's done anything.
Nope.
So
I was just thinking maybe, but if it's not the right thing to do, don't do it. But I was thinking maybe we could go out and get the actual quotes. Doesn't mean you got to give it to them and proceed, but at least we'd know where we're at money-wise.
Let me just see what shape we're in as far as the state permits and just going out for the bid.
I know we put budgets together, but it'd be nice to have a contract
I'll tell you
that
what,
does
it
the work.
sure would be nice to know what the number is, because I'm suspecting that, I shouldn't even say it, but I'm hoping it's a lot less than what has been estimated.
But I'm hoping you're right.
Well, you recall how concerned Carl was in terms of our being able to make numbers, having enough there for debt service. So I think we're going to want to approach this very cautiously, get concrete assurances. I mean, as Matt says, from what we can tell, they're working at trying to move the thing forward and get this resolved with the pipeline company. But my experience has been pipeline companies are as difficult to deal with as railroads in terms of getting closure and everything else. So hopefully we're seeing some progress.
what about the hotel up there at the old Bob?
No hotel. No contact.
They own the property. They've never called. They don't call you back.
Nope. We had one conversation about acquiring the other adjacent properties to that, and that was about it, unfortunately. And
but they own the property.
They bought it.
Right. So
They bought it. While we're on the subject of the property, as I mentioned, I tracked down the other the deeds required for that property request, and I'm not sure that they can do it, but the nature of my request is that it be conveyed at no cost to us as the Redevelopment Commission. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of luck with that, but it's one governmental agency to another. I know in other areas that you have the ability to do that, so we'll see what happens there. Better to ask and then for them to say no than to pay the money and not have to have done it. Before we get off the subject of 421 and 94, there's another prospect that is doing their due diligence on the southeast corner of that intersection. Now, speaking with the listing broker, they believe that the property that was used as borrow pits is not technically a wetland. I don't know the answer to that. That's what they believe. That's what it's actually in any way, it's a fairly substantial investment. So they're doing the work. And what I told them was we're pursuing the utility access, so that's not going to be a problem.
In the sense of filling that in?
In the sense of filling it in.
It's
a lot of acre feet.
That is. Wow.
And our famous pipe runs across our property also.
Well, sure it does.
Yeah.
Of course. But there is interest and they're trying to see if they can make that work, and I don't know what the cost per development acres is and what the sale price is, and I'm not in the middle of that private sector transaction. I'm staying out of it.
Wow. Sounds good. Anything else, Matt?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. New business, consideration of 39 North Conservatory District infrastructure project.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we have a presentation being made by Racky Engineering, and before Gary gets started with this, as the commission knows, we've been marketing the heck out of 39 North as a shovel-ready site. And our best path to success is to make the necessary improvements. When I say necessary, water fire protection improvements to make sure that we can expand out there without it working the other way around. So that's going to lead to a question of who pays and how, which is always the question, it seems. Right now, the city of LaPorte services provides water to the 39 North Conservancy District, and because Gary's here to talk about a couple of items, but indirectly relating to providing additional water, additional fire protection in this area, I'd say that we need to work in a joint fashion with the city and the Conservancy District and or somebody to do this, or I don't really see a reason to continue to try and market 39 North as a viable economic development area without having this question at least answered and aligned and the teams put together. And I just, I've been doing things over here in LaPorte County for a long time. This has always been one of the things that's been talked about, and we always seem to get to the what happens now point where who pays what. And my opinion that if we don't have the correct water and sanitary, we're spinning our wheels and having expectations that a private sector entity is going to come in there and spend $3 million or $7 million or whatever $1 million to do something is not realistic. I do, however, have an expectation that there are stakeholders that are immediately and can be positively impacted by moving forward with the utilities, 39 North Conservancy District being one of them, Indiana, Michigan Power, South Shore Freight, and so on. I mean, these are people that would directly benefit and improve the value of their land if this improvements occur. So I just urge that we need to sit down and in between now and sometime soon, really work through this depending on our review and your review and commentary about what Mr. Racky is going to present. Otherwise, there's other parts of the county we can work on, and there's other areas that we could set up economic development areas that we have water and we have adequate sewer that can accommodate the expansion and growth, period, without costing the homeowners a bunch of money.
Do you have the list of the parties that we need to pull together and see what we can do?
I will pull that list together, the major stakeholders. I'd probably rattle them off.
Also, the parties, and I'm assuming you're including the city of LaPorte as part of the stakeholders.
Yes.
And so that we target the specific individuals that we need to gather from there?
Yes.
Okay.
So what you're saying is if we don't address that issue, really the property does not have any value.
Well,
other than maybe residential. Something that doesn't need a lot of water.
Mr. Core, I'm, there's the fire chief sitting in front of me, and when he says, I'm concerned about what goes on up there and our ability to serve and protect people, I have to take notice of that and try and direct my efforts to try and alleviate it. So, if that means we're not doing anything until this gets solved, then that means we're not doing anything till this gets solved.
Mr. Corey, one of the long-sought goals of the Conservancy District has been the addition of a water tower. There was a plan to assist, obviously, fire suppression, water pressure. What Mr. Novak and others have brought to the attention of the Conservancy District Board and to this board, that while there can be additions to the sanitary sewer system in plenty of capacity, there can't be additional substantial additions to the water system without additional water pressure that you can only get through a water tower. There was some discussion about perhaps a collaborative effort that could be there between the Conservancy District, the City of LaPorte, and Redevelopment Commission to try to go after that. There is discussion about whether it might be a good OCRA grant proposal or some sort of revolving loan proposal, or maybe a combination of bonding by the Conservancy District and some other participation by the city. But as Matt indicates, it's going to be critical that we get a plan for that water tower. We've already got a site for it. It's right at the exit to the toll road. That is the location that's already sited. It's property owned by the Conservancy District, but it's trying to put together, and the last quote I think we had was about $1 million, $1.2 million, and I think it's gone up since then, certainly, but that was a few years ago. But that's the ongoing objective, that we've got to land a water tower.
So we're thinking of a water tower or something to build up the pressure. Is that what we're trying to do, or that's what we're talking about?
That's
okay.
You want to go ahead?
So I'll sit down.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, hopefully I will be giving you some information that will help you make these decisions jointly.
It's just,
And stuff. And what I did is put a presentation together so that you can, there's a lot of information I'm putting together. My name is Gary Radke with Radke Engineering. We have Howard Conley and John Peretta. And John is a person who's like a catalyst in trying to get something moving. He's trying to annex the Shady Grove Mobile Home Park plus another 9 acres of commercial development. So it's starting like a little catalyst. But anyways, you'll see on this handout that basically what we're looking for, we got two things going on. Trying to find a way to serve this area. And you'll see in my report that there is a method to doing it for sewer, because they need problems with this issue with the sewer. But also then looking at the big project, which Matt was talking about, and is actually developing a system so that the water towers here, we planned that water tower 20 years ago when I was forming the district. 8-inch main would go all the way to the intersection, and we could serve this area all the way from the intersection through for future development. The sewer, right now, Family Express is onto the sewer system and is in the district. Also, the Gallup gas station is in the district, and they are looking at connecting onto the sewer system. But when this development hits, this line is not big enough. So we have now planned a second line for the sewer, a 6-inch line. So we'll have a 4-inch and a 6-inch with the lift stations to be able to serve this whole area for sanitary sewer. So this is really the development, future development.
they'd all be pressure systems?
Pardon?
Pressure systems?
Yes, it's a low pressure
We
system.
don't do sewers, but just for
So there's, what we're proposing is a 4-inch low pressure sewer system for here. It'll actually connect onto here. But when we get to this point, we'll put a 6-inch in to serve this area and then a new 6-inch all the way here. You'll see it on my first page of that, the issue of the sanitary, but also then the water. We did a study back 20 years ago, which said about a 500,000 gallon tank. We now upsized it in the last number of years up to 750,000 because the city needs this water system too, for storage, not just pressure, but storage for the city. Storage for the city, pressure for the and fire protection for the district. Then we're also looking at installing a dry hydrant on at Arnold's property. There's a pond there. We're looking at a dry hydrant there so fire trucks can go in. We're looking at it as a two-phase project. One is, like I call it temporary in my notes, but the first phase is doing the small stuff, the dry hydrant, the annexation to this point of the sewer, and then start working on the project what we need to do for the future. So you can see that on page 2, we annexed the Family Access in 2002. They paid for the whole sewer line coming from here to there. They formed a sewer district for 15 years and nobody connected, so that didn't happen. Gallup is also then, they annexed the gas station plus their land, and then they're looking at having a truck parking area on the other side of the road. That's been annexed last year. For the mobile home park, sewer is quite critical because John and his family just bought this property, and there's 60 lots from the state that are developed in the mobile home park. There's not 60 homes there now.
No, they're not.
But it's licensed for 60. They have a septic system in this area, which is questionable, and the State Board of Health is talking to them and saying, hey, why don't you connect to the sewer system instead of spending your money on a septic system? Besides that, then with the sewer system, they can develop this 9-acre commercial. They employed already a real estate company to start looking at marketing, and that company can work with Matt and whoever we can do to start developing that. Again, water is something that doesn't have to happen immediately. This vacant lot on the northeast corner is owned by Chester. I'm not sure what his last name is. He is definitely interested of connecting and dealing with something. This property here is also, there's a little hot dog stand on it now, and that property is, I talked to the people a number of years ago, they definitely want to sell and develop it. Their $800,000 price is a little questionable, but we'll see where that goes. So on page 3, I got some proposals on dollars. It'll give you some idea what the dollars. The dollars for the temporary connection for the mobile home park to this station is about $250,000. That's this 1,500 feet of 4-inch and 1,700 feet of the 6-inch, and a grinder pump. The system then from this location to the city is the next item, which is about $387,000. And then the dry hydrant, that's basically about a $30,000 item, where already our company has designed it. And then the water tower, which is the expensive one, is the $300,000. In the water tower is, and I didn't bring the site plan with, but it's up on the hill, and on the bottom by the road we'll have some extra lane for fire trucks to load up to be able to have like 2 tanker trucks to actually load water out of it. The great difference between here and here is, I think, around 60 feet. We're going to have a pressure reducing valve, obviously, because that's too high a pressure when we start looking at the tower. The cost estimate on the tower was about
It's $1.945, $1,900,000 for the tower alone. It's Jeffrey on, my engineer on the project.
1.9?
1.9 for the tower alone.
Yeah. And then we estimated a couple $100,000 for the development of the site and stuff. So you can see we're looking at a $3.7 million project. Again, I talked about the Shady Grove, of them connecting. They are looking at, they need to do something now, so they can't wait till the big project. They got to do something now, because else they're going to deal with the septic system. So that's what we met with 39. They met with 39 North Conservancy District at the last meeting, and basically said, "Why don't you go to redevelopment? Maybe we can get a conglomeration of groups start helping doing this project." So what we're hoping to do is get that system, temporary system, going this fall. The future development is, I guess, it's up to somebody to be able to head it up, and I think here's obviously Matt is always a great source of heading up, and with Shaw involved. So you can see the next pages are the actual cost estimates. You can see what we use for unit prices. We got all the lump sum prices and also unit prices. And the last two pages are the small pages of that.
Do you have a cost for the septic system? Did somebody work up what it would cost?
Did you ever work up a cost on the septic system?
We haven't done it because we don't know if it's even feasible doing it. We might have to go to the engineer and have that done. But until we know which route to go, because I talked to my engineer and he says, well, once we know you're going to go septic, we'll design a septic or design a sewer.
Well, we might want to justify it on our end. That's why I asked what's the cost of the septic system.
And
we might want to know. I would assume we would want to know.
Mr. Freeman, the regional sewer district has no, and this is like, I just see them kind of going, this is our ball, especially with the sewers. Now, the water's one thing, but when it comes to sewers, because as you heard earlier, we're working on another sewer project, and they're taking that over, so.
Now again, 94 and 421, that's a LaPorte County Regional Sewer District.
The expansion's going to wind up being under they're going to wind up having it. There's a deal between them and the city. Right.
And this one will be 39 North Conservancy District.
The regional sewer district would be the underlying property owner. The city of Michigan City would own the water and the sanitary lines and be responsible for maintenance, bill collection, and make sure the system works.
So have you had any conversations with the sewer district at all on this?
It's in the 39 North service area, so we don't. Because they're excluded. They're not into the LaPorte County Regional Sewer District.
As you know, their jurisdiction is outside of any of the cities or the conservancy districts. So that's with the regional sewer district. So yes, because it falls in the conservancy district, then the responsibility falls on the conservancy district. But we've relayed thinking, Mr. President, that you have strongly that the first and foremost is focusing like a laser on resolving this water tower issue, because it's key to the rest of future water system development and tie-ins out in that district. So, Matt and I have discussed other possibilities that would provide a combination between the Conservancy District, City of LaPorte. I've indicated we don't have much in our TIF funds for 39 North, so it's not as if there's much the district can do. The district has helped, the Redevelopment Commission has helped with some of the signage, modest things out there, but you see the balance. There's just not a lot to work with.
We wouldn't have much of an input for you at all. I agree with the water tower. I think without the water tower, that area is not going to go anywhere.
You can't. Mr. Freeman and Matt understand my position on this, and I'll tell you how it came about, because there was a fire out on the island, and Cool Spring Fire Department went over and filled up their tanker over by the old Center Township station, which the main that goes out 39 is a dead end main. Then they teed off of that to go down Johnson Road. They filled up over there. When they fill up over there, everything on 39 North dries up. Right. So the water department from LaPorte came out there screaming and yelling at them, Because he's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You're going to shut things. You're going to cause problems. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. So we went and sat down and met with the water department in LaPorte, and that's what he explained to us. He's like, look, you know, until they do this, because they had a house fire once, it's my understanding Portofino's dried up. So with that said, if they have a house fire, there's no fire suppression system in those buildings out there. That's my concern. So until the water tower or something else, there's no other way to make another loop in there, so it's going to have to be a water tower. Until that's done, I don't think there's anything. I mean, that has to be the primary part of everything. Doing a dry hydrant, you know, suck it out of a pond, that's one thing. That's not going to get you. You're not going to suck out of the pond and backfeed the main from. So that's not going to work. You know, it'll work for filling a tanker or doing something. So it is a very temporary water supply. So the water tower has to be. There has to be a plan in place for the water tower before myself would consider any expansion out there. So
We're all totally all agreeable. It's
right.
Time.
So, but I think the big player at the table is the city of LaPorte.
I was just going to say that.
Because you know they're the ones that they're selling you the water. So I mean they've got more of an interest than pretty much anybody in the sewers. Don't they have a moratorium on no more expansion out of the? So I mean you'd have to get past all that. That's not our authority to tap in or expand the. And then is this new 6-inch line going to go all the way back to LaPorte City?
No, just to the total, because we got a 12-inch main right.
Okay, so you got it. Okay, you just need to run a sig.
And your comment regarding that moratorium, that only affects the non-area of the boundary of 39. So we got a surface area outside of the actual boundary of 39, and stuff that this lies in it. So we don't have to go back to the city.
Right. Then I guess the only other thing that I like to see is always for future expansion, and whatever water lines that go out there, whatever sewer lines that go out there are adequate for, because you know with the trailer park's going to want to tie in, next thing you know somebody else is going to want to tie in somebody else, and we don't want to have to. We got a 4-inch, and then we're going to add a 6-inch line, then we're going to have to. Hey, now we need to add another 6-inch line. So it's better to size it accordingly right off the bat.
And you can see in that handout, what I did mention is that the agreement with 39 North in the city, there's a lot of volume that 39 can handle. Because you can see that we have an agreement with 1 million gallons a day, and we're only at 64,000. So we got adequate volume from the city. We just got to find pipage to get to that volume. That's great.
And you said the existing 4-inch main isn't big enough right now? Up at for the trailer park?
The problem is, is how far you're going to go with it, you know?
Right.
That's where the big old question mark pops in, is that, you know, with a 6-inch force main, you can serve a lot of homes and businesses.
Right.
But all you have to do is all of a sudden a big industrial thing comes and it's too small.
Yeah, the 4-inch won't get us very far.
No.
It might work for your project, but that'd probably be it.
Right.
And I agree with Randy. I think if we're going to put the money up front, and if we give you all the TIF money we got nowhere near enough to pay for the sewer anyway. So the question is,
$50,000.
where does the other money come from? If it was a viable project, I could sit here and say I would be happy taking the TIF money we have and putting it towards that sewer project. But we got to know where the money's coming from to do the rest of the sewer project. And number two, are we doing it correctly? Because the worst thing we can do is put a Band-Aid on this and someone else comes to town, as Randy said, and it could cost you 3 times as much to fix the mistake that you might make by making it too small. Work for you, but it may not work for the next guy.
We never ever get none of the money out that way at all. It always goes to Toll Road, 421, Kingsbury, wherever. What's happening over there? There is stalemate too. That's a hot corner down there. It would help the county tax-wise, or township, and everybody else in that area. People need to look outside the box than inside the box.
So if we gave you every dollar we have in there, that's like $53,000. You're not gonna, it's not gonna scratch. I mean, so right now there's no money that we have to do that. So unless you go take it out of riverboat money, that project cost right there would eliminate riverboat money. So we're not talking
They need to come to you.
No.
Back to you.
Right, but I think the best bet is the city of LaPorte. They got.
We went to Rolling Prairie, but
Right.
riverboat money.
So I think the solution is that you have these entities working together, and the city knows what to do. They sell the water, they treat the sanitary, and we need to come to an agreement with them to do this project or how to do this project. And if they're not interested in the project, we have an issue. I know that 39 North has a contractual arrangement with the city for X amount of gallons of water coming in and X gallons of sanitary going out. I don't know what those numbers are. I don't know what the length of the contract is. I don't know what, and if I could get a hold of some as-built with regard to 39 North to see what we can service and what would happen with the proposed project, and put that in the context, the same thing we did with 421 and 94. If we do this, X acres of X gets developed, and that's how you do planning, right? So we'll know. All right, well, if we have sewer and water that serves, 1,000 acres or 500 acres or whatever the calculation is, those are the things we need to know now. And whether it's in Indiana, Michigan Power's territory or it's in NIPSCO's territory, we need to know those things. So, what we know today is we're about sold out with what's up there. What's up there is great. I think it has a lot of potential, but I can't legitimately say, well, if I go north and there's a willing seller of 500 acres, we could help you. I'd have to say, well, we could help you, but it's going to cost and take it. It's not so much the cost that is of concern, because with these bigger projects you could self-finance them. What is the timeline? And somebody that does site selection, I'd go, wow, that's an awesome corner.
Well, one of the things I think you may want to consider, and certainly the council members want to consider, is there some sort of skin in the game the county could have, whether it's either out of major moves, a portion, maybe some riverboat, combined with, if there's some debt financing that 39 North can do, along with the city of LaPorte. City of LaPorte doesn't have a lot of riverboat funds. They just don't. I mean, it's not like Michigan City, which, the Redevelopment Commission over there, much more solvent. So it may have to be a combination of several entities, and is this something where the council would consider, all right, there's there's some commitment we could make to the water tower, potentially through major moves? I don't know.
We got to bring the players to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just something food for thought, but I know it's a priority that you all have, the Conservancy District has. Mr. Connolly's been out there, Springfield Township trustee, doing good, hard work for that area for many, many years, and I understand his concern, and it's the same as it is out at the Conservancy District, but it may have to be several different entities coming together with a joint solution.
Yeah. And I don't want to leave you the impression that we don't want to help you. We want you to be successsul.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from my standpoint here, I donate the whole $50,000 to your credibility to put whatever you need to from the Redevelopment Commission, but that's just me saying that. You have to have all of us.
Well, I wish we had
we wouldn't have a problem with doing that to help you out here. That's why we're here. But until we know what it actually costs, and like Matt says, we know where we're headed with the right design and right engineering that we need for future, and who's going to be the other partners, just like Shaw's talking about. We need other partners here. We just can't do it for you. We're not against helping you. So
in the meantime, if that, and this is obviously a temporary fix, but if that 4-inch main would handle the trailer park, can they just punch in there, tie into that? Whenever you do get that 6-inch main out there, they can just switch over to the 6-inch main.
We're looking at using both of them.
Okay.
CPM Express will not extend that line to nobody, because they're bellied up with their diesel leak underneath out there, and they're keeping that extra in that line, because they're thinking about going to kitchen serving food in their gas stations. The engineer said he needed that extra space. They would not extend it to nobody. They're going to keep it for themselves. So that's a dead issue. The issue is, we need help. You give help to Roland Prairie. Springfield Township, it's the first time we've ever been up here to ask for help.
We don't, right. That's a whole nother, right. Those funds are at another board, though. I get that, right.
39 and 20 has been sitting dormant for 20 years because economy, no water, no sewage out there. And it won't develop or sell because of that.
But Mr. Conley, you're also asking the sewer part. You're asking to do that outside of the sewer district that ran it out to Rolling Prairie. So if you did this with this, is just me thinking. If you did that with the sewer district, then the sewer district might be able to bond something, do something, recoup the money, and help cover some of the cost of this. You're saying we're not going to be involved with them, so we're trying to finance this on our own. So that deal that went all the way out there, they sold some bonds on it and did some things. They're paying them, and there was some money that was put into that. But you guys have to be willing to look at everything. You have to be willing to look at the city of LaPorte, maybe the regional sewer district, everything. I mean, if your goal is to get this out there, everybody has to look outside the box, and maybe it's not the conservatory district that's going to own it when it's all said and done. The stuff we're running out to 421 and 94 out there, we're not going to own that. I mean, that's going to be the city, but we want to get it out there. So we need to have more discussions and get the city of LaPorte involved, and I'm sure at some time we probably need to have a meeting with the regional sewer district just to see if there's something that they're willing to do. So
Well, we schedule another meeting.
Right, absolutely. But we can.
I think you're going to have a lot more meetings.
But we need to. I think Matt's already talked to the city of LaPorte. They're willing to sit down and talk.
I go back to who's providing the water and the sanitary, and there needs to be a direct connect between 39 North Conservancy and the city. What engineering wise works or doesn't work, period, from their standpoint, and is it affordable for all concerned, and is there residual benefit to the city? Because when you put your mayor hat on in the city, he's like, well, gee whiz, guys, that's nice, but I got my stuff to worry about. So I'm just, I don't know if it's even feasible, but the way to address could be to address the problem is if there's a water tower, there is benefit to the city directly because that increases their opportunity for more pressure. And I don't know any of these answers because I'm not an engineer, but I do know that we need about $3.5 million, and we don't have it in the TIF, and I don't have a deal to finance it. And we have entities that can finance that and users that can pay a fee to do it. And so, not to belabor the point, but 39 North and the city need to sit down and figure out the right engineering and the right design to entice them to say, hey, we're in for some money. I think that would be the next step.
Well, one of the other things to contemplate as well, and we had talked at the Conservancy District, was about the state having some participation. I mean, the budget bill's now closed out, but there was discussion about even lobbying and using some of the, we've got Representative Pressel, Senator Bohachik, and others who could perhaps in the next budget session see if we could ever get it, something placed as a line item in one of the state budgets.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's part of economic development. It is. It's a legitimate request.
Does Okra do anything? Is there an Okra grant out there? Does this area qualify for that?
The Okra grants are income-based. So we would have to do an income survey of a prescribed area that's predetermined in advance for the income survey. Because only those people the people within the prescribed area of the income survey are considered beneficiaries by Okra, and therefore could be used in the calculation to determine eligibility.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about this all night. We really can't do anything here tonight. What would be the next step that you would take? Get the county
down
and the
with
city
the-
together, the sewer
You know what?
district and
Yeah.
the
Well,
city?
we'd be happy to be a part of
Okay.
that.
Let Sean and I get our heads together. I think what needs to happen is 39 North Conservancy District and the city needs to sit down. And if, there's not a way for those two entities to work collaboratively, then
Right.
one or the other has to move or get out of the way, or one has to finance it and the other one has to do something. But very similar to the process that went on with 421 and 94. I mean, that wasn't the smoothest of all things, but it got worked out.
Right.
Where the underlying property was owned by the regional sewer district, that the cities did would do the ongoing ownership and maintenance, and the TIF district funded it. And we're just going to have to pencil that out.
Right. It doesn't look anything like it started out to look like out of 421 and no. I mean, that's what we envisioned
Right.
when we said we're going to do this, but it's what we wound up with.
Well, that's right. And I think that's a fair challenge to us to say, look, both of you try to get the city of LaPorte and the Conservancy District leadership together and then ultimately come back to you, hopefully to help bless the arrangement, endorse whatever we come up with. But I think that would be the next step.
Yeah, in Michigan City, so you folks know, that covers a huge development area. That's not just one site. That covers a whole big area. So,
State Road 2400 West.
right. Okay.
So we'll get, I will get with Shaw, we'll get the parties together before the next redevelopment commission meeting, and we'll get some findings together for you to review. Other bodies are going to be involved, so the council and commissioners and all that
Let
fun
us know,
stuff.
and we'll have some representatives
Absolutely.
from this
Well, they had Logan
body
here.
be
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely.
No, we support this expansion 100%. We just can't commit any funds to it until we know everything that is there and how much is there, and then you've got it's a whole nother body that would allocate those additional funds if they did do those.
Right.
But as of right now, the council is not put any money into the 421 TIF, into the 421 thing. So there's been no money appropriated for that because it hasn't even gone out for bonds. So we don't even know the cost yet. So there's been talk about it. So I mean, that's a big hurdle. We still got to get over that hurdle over there. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's a
because we were at one time we were hoping to bond the whole thing, and then it was like no, I support doing it. So we've got to make it happen.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We just really want people to work with us.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Oh,
So,
we're-
I mean, it's
yeah.
not that, don't think that we don't appreciate everything that you're doing. We just want to be worked with and give the opportunity to do what we want.
Well, thank you for coming in. We'll see if we can help you somehow.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate it.
Good job.
All right, thank you. Under other business, we still have one last claim to pay. It's the News Dispatch. It's a PO number 51957 in the amount of $33.36.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Anything else to come before the...
Just a question. I'm going to be out of town on the 29th, so the question would be whether you could move it a week later, or I simply have my associate come
We
in my
can move it.
stead.
Where are you going?
Out in Vermont.
It's a long... We can move...
You come out to the Green Mountains, all right?
Bernie.
Well, we can move it, can't we? Move it up a week or something. Does that work? Move it up a week?
Yeah, or a week later.
You
If,
too? You all right? I'm not
that'll give us
against
time to meet on this other as well.
it.
so
I'm
that
ready
if
to
we
be
can,
here.
yeah. I don't know,
When is our next meeting?
29th, I think.
26.
26.
So back it up, be 19.
It's June 16. Hold on.
June 26th.
That's, can't do it. We got a meeting with the township trustees.
You got
The 16th is a Sunday.
There's a commissioners meeting that night on the 16th.
And they've got a meeting with the township trustees earlier in the afternoon, which will take this room, I think, on the 19th. Would the week after work, or is that?
That's good for me, whatever works.
What's the date on that?
So it would be
My calendar.
No, July. You're talking July.
July 3rd. That's not going to work.
No,
There's
June, right? We're talking June here.
Right.
Yeah,
Board
but
meeting?
if
Right,
we go a
June.
week later, it
Oh,
goes
July
into July.
1st, that's going to be a tough week.
July 3rd. It's
Yeah.
July 3rd's not gonna work?
What if we change the day?
Well, do we have to do
change
it on a
the day?
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Can we
Well,
change the
he's
day
gone
for
that
this
week.
one meeting?
You're going that whole week, Sean?
And I don't want to throw everybody off. I mean, I can
Yeah.
have my associate come as we've done
Okay.
periodically before. So why don't we do that?
And then Shaw, you can, between then, you could, we can work a write-up for this discussion.
Yes.
And have your associate present that.
Fine.
Keep it
That
to
work?
26.
Yes.
So we're gonna leave it the
26th?
26th.
The June 26th would be the next meeting.
All right, very good.
All right, hearing no other business?
Oh, all right,
Whoa.
sorry. The signs for the TIF are going up. Mitch sent us some communication on the sign for KIP. We got gouged a bit there on the bids, so there's no way we could recommend spending $326,000 on wayfinding unless it was telling you how to get to $500,000 in cash. So that's a no-go. We're going to try and figure out how to put up the sign, a sign, and figure out how to get it lit and landscaped on.
Nothing fancy, and I'm not even sure. You saw my email. I'm not even able to recommend that we use TIF money for landscaping. Maybe a not to exceed of a certain figure,
Yeah.
25 in TIF,
$25?
to do a full.
And we still can get some of the grant, right?
Absolutely. You got the floral place out there. They can put some bushes and flowers. We don't need that. You spend your money on
Sign got out of
landscaping.
control.
That's right. That's exactly
Well,
right.
and then, it's like, gee whiz, here's, $200,000, and then you get to spend $100,000. I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't the
I
plan.
think the key is just having something legible that helps announce
Right.
it, have the wayfinding signs covered, but maybe some sort of authorization
It needs
from you
better than what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have that property that we're
Yes, sir.
looking
Yes,
on?
that we have.
do, right?
All those properties were
That's
acquired
clear.
a few years back, so they're ready to go. And then there was,
We'll probably want to get a motion on the record so that we can, because I
Support?
think, yeah,
Can we put a dollar amount on it
Well,
without advertising?
well, and not to exceed. I mean, you can do a not to exceed and then request proposals.
Then we can still pay the bill when it comes in.
That's it.
25,000 enough?
That was 2,500.
No, it's 20.
It was higher. I threw the low number.
Must be a lit sign.
Well, that's right. It's to
it
erect
was,
the
it
sign.
was just 300,000 instead of 3 million.
But that way you make clear you're not paying landscaping, you're not paying extras. You're talking the basic sign out there and then making sure all the wayfinding signs are covered as well.
why don't I suggest this? Why don't Mitch and I put together a scope, and because it's going to be less than $75,000, we can select 3 bidders and do that and bring it back to you, and then you can decide if you want to do
Why
it.
don't you do that, then we'll know how much the grant is worth, and we'll know what the balance is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you see, he's recommending avoid the grant option simply
Yes, altogether.
Yeah.
because there's just too many complications. So
Yeah, I
bring the
agree.
price down considerably, do it out of TIF funds, but cap it at something reasonable so that you're not covering a lot of.
Yeah, because we could build the spec to say, we are designing a sign that should cost about $25,000. That should include the following. Blah, 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 blah. It's okay to include that information in the bid. If you acted as a body to say we've set it a not to exceed fee, and I don't see any reason there's a
I think he had suggested 25, didn't he?
He did.
Can we get to, I mean, we have an idea what this is going to look like? I mean,
yeah,
there's a way we can kind of go,
Looks great. I'll send it
Like
to
a
you.
$25,000?
I mean, but that's with all the stuff in it. That was a 300,000 model. No,
We're not
waterfall
talking
and
a Cadillac,
everything, the
we're talking
water
a Chevy
feature.
Cavalier. Okay? We're
And the
talking a
water
Cavalier.
Just to help put it in perspective, to match the grant, you had set aside $22,000.
we did. Yes.
So
not to exceed
your commitment
22,000,
was
that's what we
22.
allocate.
You want to do that?
Okay.
Why don't you do that? I mean, that was your agreement, but I think you want to go on the
Got a
record with
motion,
something.
or one of us do. It's up to you. I don't want to get in trouble.
No.
I'll make that motion that we allow $22,000 for a sign not to exceed.
Okay.
It better be nice.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
I wasn't seconding that one.
All right, is there any other
Second enough
questions? Is
tonight.
there any other questions not to see? The 22,000 we had originally allocated for our portion of the grant money, so. But he'll report back to us, or
Yeah,
send
Mitch
us an
couldn't be
email.
here. He had a conflict, and he was going to explain the whole thing. but
We're going to see the sign before we even agree to a
Going to
price.
see what it looks like.
Well, and I
We
would suggest you
know
get
it.
a couple different proposals. You got different sign companies in the area that could certainly, now that you got an amount, these guys can go and get 2 or 3
Yeah, we
proposals.
can give
for
this
it.
back and say, here's what we want to tell us. What it's
And since it's no longer with the grant, we're not restricted on some of the companies that we can go to.
That's
So
correct.
we can use certain local companies.
That's exactly
and really spirit our own economy.
Yes.
Correct.
And so therefore, we find a win-win.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So one other quick item, sir. before
All
we-
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Now you got what you wanted next.
Next item.
Or Mitch wanted.
Next meeting, I'll give a presentation. We'll invite the overlapping taxing districts to talk about TIF. And it's a law that passed last year. There's a requirement, and they will suggest that you do it before July 1st. So we'll just throw it in there. We'll notice all the overlapping districts, and we'll talk about tax increment financing and the impacts therein.
And while you're talking about that, and not to throw a wrench in things, are there any other areas in the county? I think there was briefly kind of mentioned about, like 421 and 30, somewhere down there that we might look at a TIF to maybe help improve something. We have nothing in the South County, and maybe there's a way we can help improve something down there by doing something. I don't know what
Happy
it
to
would
look
do.
into it. I mean, you look at major interchanges, you look at places that have utilities or the start thereof. That's something worth looking into.
There's a lot of undeveloped land down there and stuff,
There's a whole
and especially if something did happen with Highway 30 and we know where the interchanges are going to be, that might be some good
That's a
property.
very good suggestion. Plan ahead. Don't get planned on.
Right.
Plan ahead of it. I think that's something we'll
we
be
need to
happy
get
to look
involved
into.
more in the South.
And one thing you may want to avoid is getting involved in that J turn debate down there.
Michigan U.
Yeah.
I got caught in one. I made a left-hand turn on one of them once, and I thought they were going to throw me in jail. I mean, here's the thing, and this has nothing to do with redevelopment, but it saves. I mean, I guess they saves lives. So,
I don't know how.
anything else?
So we'll explore a new district. We'll have that, but it's a brief presentation. It's not a big deal. I think the baseline discussion is but for the use of the program, you don't get the increment, and it only affects cumulative cap fund projects, and those are shown in any kind of tax impact. So it's like, here's what's going on.
Sounds good.
Not a big deal.
You got anything else on your
No,
phone
sir.
there, Matt?
Nope.
Very
good.
All done.
All right. All those in favor for
Aye.
adjourning? Aye. Thank you.